Good morning, everybody. We're going to be doing the death chart reading of MO3. So we're going to let the music kind of come in while we get ready. I'm going to be doing a reading of his death chart, and we're going to study the fixed stars, alignments, and aspects. This is another way to guide. You can use alignments to basically use geometry um, for spaces. So stay tuned. We're going to let the music roll in, and I'll be right with you. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. Right now, I'm just letting the ancestors come in, so we're just getting comfortable. Time is 10:23. That's number 5. So, thank you for the people that are here. Just sit back and relax, and we are going to kind of just let the energy just come in. Giving me about 10 more minutes, and we'll start to study these stars. So before we get into the birth chart reading, for those, this is actually a death chart reading. The reason why I said death chart reading is because I will be reading the chart from the actual day that he passed, the day that he was deleted. And what we're going to do is study these planets in alignment on that specific day. So we can study various charts. So I'm going to introduce you to 2 ways to look at alignments. So we're going to actually do sidereal. We're going to bring up a sidereal chart. And sidereal is according to the fixed stars. So most people use Western astrology, but sidereal astrology is based on the alignments of the fixed stars which are in the sky. And when you study the fixed stars, you want to study the alignments that actually are aspecting the stars. And that's what we're going to look at today. So according to most people, you're familiar with your birth chart according to Western astrology. So and this is 28 degrees. There's a 28-degree difference with Western astrology versus sidereal astrology. But NASA uses sidereal astrology to actually count time because it has something to do with the fixed stars. So what we want to do is locate the degrees of the fixed stars that were aspecting his planets on that specific day. And this is actually going to be a series, because the next series is going to be a synastry chart, where we'll take 2 charts and put them together, so you can look at how the stars are aligning with your personal planets, and this is how you move within the 360. Okay, you guys, so be right back. I'm going to try to stay focused today, but hood conservative trying to do. Just want to let you know I am the 7th sister of the 5th star Electra. I am the hidden sister, okay? So that's actually where my home is at. That being said, part of my colon will be hidden. Okay, family, are y'all ready? So, thank you for coming in. Um, please like, share, and subscribe. I had to kind of get those butterflies out of my stomach. So, what we're gonna do is a birth chart. I'm gonna pull up the synastry reading. Okay, give me a second. Okay, you guys. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have one chart that has his chart, but I don't have his exact birth time. So I'm going to kind of do it from 6 p.m. for the date of birth. But let me see something real quick. So with a synastry chart, let me take this off. You take two charts and basically um, you they take take two charts, put them together, and you get a synastry chart. And this is how you study alignments. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put up the chart because the first thing we want to do is actually study the. I want y'all to look at what this picture looks at. So we want to study. So part of studying is like looking. So this is a snapshot of the sky when you put in a signature chart. So you can see all of the different angles and alignments. So the first thing you want to do is kind of look at the empty spaces that you see in the alignments. All right. So bear with me. So the first thing is we want to look at this chart, right? So this is a synergy chart. So you can see both planets, okay? Both charts. So I put it as birthday and exit, okay? So the this is his planet. So you can go and look at the video where I did his birth chart reading, so you can get information on that. And then you have the exit planets. So you scroll down, and this is what we want to be looking at is these specific shapes and alignments. So, one of the things with MO3 is, of course, there's a trial. So there is, I guess, a specific person, I guess, that is on trial. But with the Mo3 story, there's layers to this. So we also know that it's just not one person that would be involved in this specific situation. So when you're studying the charts, you can kind of identify specific people, places, or things that would correlate with how these alignments and when you study synastry. So basically, the synastry is how things are connected or how things are synced in. So, of course, with astrology, people are more familiar with like your sun sign, and that's the day that you're born. So the sun stays in a sign for 30 days, okay? But each planet, when you're born, you're not just your sun sign. You have all of your planets, you have asteroids, you have fixed stars. All of those stars or celestial bodies, okay, were in a specific location at a specific time. And those energies would be prevalent because they are coming through. All right, so this is the interesting part about studying fixed stars. So before we get into the fixed stars, I have to do a different chart for that. I'm just going to look at the synastry, and right now I'm using Western astrology. So there's different times that you would use different uh, calculations. So when we use tropical or Western astrology, you would use that calculation for how to study the cardinal points on Earth. So this is the equinoxes. So you have the Tropic of Cancer, and you have the Tropic of Capricorn. So when you are studying the longitude and latitude on Earth, we know that the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn are specific lines that are within the 360. So the tropical Cancer and that is based on the equinox, which are the seasons. So we can use Western astrology to kind of study more of how you can look at aspects from Earth. All right. So when you want to study the fixed stars, you have to use sidereal calculations because those calculations are based on the zodiacal movements of the fixed stars. The fixed stars are moving, but they're moving at a different space. So let's say a planet could be in a fixed star for thousands of years. So let's say the fixed star Regulus. So the fixed star Regulus was in the sign of Leo for thousands of years and is actually moving into the first degree of Virgo. So most people are familiar with the fixed star Regulus being associated with Leo. But right now, that star is actually moving into Virgo. It's about maybe 0 degrees Virgo. So when you study in alignments, you have to know what calculations you want to use. So there's a separation of 28 degrees between sidereal time and tropical time. So we use tropical time for Earth, right? So, but we use sidereal time to actually study time in the universe. So NASA actually uses sidereal time. Okay. Um, but before we go into sidereal time, we want to keep it mundane, and we're going to look at the tropical time because that is based in seasons. So, and those are the cardinal points. So this is where that grand cross comes from. So when you study your chart, you locate your cardinal points because your cardinal points are your initiation points where things will start. Okay, and then you can have fixed points, and then you have mutable points in your chart. All right, so that's a little bit about that, understanding dualities and mobilities of alignments and how these planets exude specific energies. So when we speak about planets, they are actually emitting specific energies into the atmosphere. So, like I said before, most people are familiar with their sun sign, but each planet is in a specific sign when you're born or when you die. And wherever that planet is at, in the sign that it's at, it's going to tell you how the planet is operating, what the planet probably would do. All right. And then you want to look at the degrees because the degrees are going to tell you where that planet is at. And then that's going to connect you to the fixed stars. And then the fixed star has rulership or is a lord over that specific space in that universe, which means that it's going to be emitting specific energies that the planet will play out. All right, you guys? I feel like I'm going to probably have to do like 2 series to this because there's a lot that I have to look at. Oh, just to let y'all know, we are simul streaming on 6 different platform. So this is also being shared to Facebook as well. So thank you guys for everybody that came in. Hello, Hood Conservative. How you doing, Brixton? Um, so before we move forward, I'm going to kind of tell you how this stuff works with people and how people will say different things to you. And a lot of times it's just a distraction, so don't let the distraction fool you from the observation, right? So we should always be in observation mode. You should be observing everything. So let's say this comment right here. He says, Brixton, my girl is down bad. We could really do something on YouTube that was impactful without her firefighting her channel identity. So yes, and this is Raw B. She says, blessings to you. Let's go. Thank you. Um, so yeah, so shout out to the people that are trolling me. Your trolls are very appreciated. Just kind of gives me insight on the direction that I need to move so I can move my chess pieces on my board accordingly so I can be the queen and my king will definitely be protecting me at all costs. All right, so I had to ponder on doing this because I'm about to open up something, and I am reading from a neutral space. Anything that I say, I'm specifically just letting it come to me. I'm not connected to anyone. If you know me or anything about me, then you should know that I've been This is something that I do. I don't charge. I'm not trying to make any money off of this. That's not what I'm doing. It's just decoding and using observation to receive specific messages that you can get through the ether. All right. So the day, so let's go. So I'm going to look at a few different aspects. And the aspects that I want to look at is Mars and Pluto. So Mars is the god of war. Mars rules, traditionally, Mars rules Aries and Pluto, right? And Pluto also rules Scorpio. No, forgive me. Mars rules Scorpio and Aries. It's the traditional ruler of those two planets. Okay? Aries and Scorpio. So when we're looking at Mars, we have to remember that Mars has everything to do with physical assertion. It has everything to do with war. And Mars, you would say, is the general. So if the sun is the god, then Mars is the general. So what Mars does is it basically plays out strategies, right? And Mars operates in two specific ways. It can be logical and it also can be impactful. So let's say Aries is the part of Mars where it's kind of like on the front line in a war. And Scorpio is more of the thinker, the strategist. So if we were going to war, the Scorpion would be the more hidden energy. It's the strategic energy. It's the energy of um, being able to, um, what's the word I'm going to use? It's methodical, right? So Scorpio is going to move the chess pieces a specific way, and then Aries is able to carry out what Mars wants to do. So we know that he was shot on the interstate. He was actually shot on a highway, right? Which means that there had to be more than one person that was involved in this. One of the controversies is, was it a crime of passion or was it something like a hit or a setup? So I kind of been looking at the charts to see, okay, where would passion? So Mars rules passion, right? Mars is passion, and the sun is passion. And um, so we've heard of that term, a crime of passion. But Mars also rules what we would consider a hit, right? A setup. If you were to be set up or if you were a target, Mars also would play out those specific energies. So right here, you have a square. So a lot of times you want to look at the shapes. So for the mundane, we're going to stick to the traditional shapes that you see, and those are going to be trines. So that's going to be a triangle. They're going to be squares and sextiles, and quincunx. So we're going to kind of more look at the sextiles, the oppositions, the squares, and the conjunctions. So a trine is going to show you more complementary energies. So when you're looking at a chart, if you want to look for complementary energies, you want to look for the trines. The trines will tell you, and those are going to be easy energies. It's going to kind of flow pretty easily. That's your kind of like your gifts. Okay. 1 second, you guys. So thank you guys. So remember, we are streaming from multiple platforms. So everybody can see each other's chat in the screen. So make sure you guys are chatting away, so everybody can get to know each other, because we are streaming in multiple sectors. All right. So we got to remember. So when you look at the screen, you can see trines, squares, sextiles, and oppositions and conjunctions. All right. So right now we're looking at the synastry chart. So this chart is a synastry chart is going to compose of Mo3's birth chart, and I took his death chart, which is the day that he passed away, and I put these two charts together, and this is going to give me the synastry. So let's say you want to. So this is kind of tell you what was going on with Mo3 on that day. So we know that that day was 11/11/2020. All right. So 11/11, 11/11 is a master number. Oh, and by the way, happy Valentine's Day, you guys.
Yeah, same to you.
So I pay attention to all alignments, right? No alignment is better or worse than another. This is just a snapshot of what's going on in the esoteric and how that relates to you personally. Okay. So we have to also now understand what the planet's duties are, right? So we know Saturn is karma. Saturn is the father time. Saturn represents the devil in the tarot. And Saturn also is Chronos, it's the timekeeper. So studying Saturn will kind of give you insight on time, right? So we all have a specific amount of time in this specific body or realm, and Saturn rules that. All right, Saturn rules that. So the first, the first thing. Okay, so also when we look at the planets, the Saturn represents his Mo3's birth chart. So let's say Saturn trine Venus. Okay. So Saturn is representing Mo3. This is his planet. So you got to remember his energy is moving. And then Venus is, this is showing you where Venus was, where it was at in alignment to the stars as it relates to the location, which is Dallas. All right. So as I'm reading it, the first planet that I say will be the personal planet of Mo3. Okay. The second planet I say would be the planet that it was the sign and planet it was in on 11/11/2020, and how that was aspecting in Dallas, Texas. So we know that Saturn, so the first thing that's going to pop out of me is a little bit about Venus. So we think about, and today's Valentine's Day. So they say men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So we kind of think about Venus being, and Venus rules Libra. Okay. Now, Saturn is exalted in Libra. So Saturn loves Libra. A little bit about Libra is Libra actually um, has a special place in the universe. So Libra is actually not a human being, it's an object. So Libra literally holds up the universe. Libra is the actual scale that is balancing the universe. So that brings me to Anubis. So Anubis is represented as the god of the underworld, we would say. Anubis holds the scales. So what Libra is representing is Anubis. And Anubis, when you go to the underworld, right? So when you study like mythology and all of those great things, the story of you being in purgatory or you going to the underworld, that's represented by Libra and Anubis. And your heart is judged by the weight of a feather. And that is the representation of Libra. In fact, this is why Saturn is exalted in Libra, because this is the duties that Libra carries out for Saturn. So Saturn is karma and time, and Libra represents the scales and justice, what's deserved, what you are deserved, right? Righteousness. Libra is injustice, is justice, is unrighteous versus righteous, right? So this is why Saturn loves Libra. And when in his chart, Saturn was trining Venus. And Venus represents Lucifer, the morning star. Venus is Lucifer, the morning star. So for those that are Libras, nothing to be, don't be in a hissy because you're connected to that energy. It's just the power that you guys have to balance or to unbalance. Um, so it's not personal. Now, when we look at death, right, there has to be, everything has to come, everything has to work out properly in that specific day for you to like leave your body, right? So it's a time where all of the energies come together, and this is how you leave your body. So if Saturn is father time and karma, when we look at a trine, we assume a trine means everything is good. It just means it's complementary energies. It's going to flow. So a trine is going to flow. So the first thing we notice is his Saturn is trining Venus, which means Saturn is exalted in Venus in Libra, which means that Venus is going to be able to play out the duties that Saturn needs. All right. So just because you see a trine doesn't necessarily mean that it's all positive. All right. So the question is, who was Venus? So I'm looking at this chart. So if he said who's Venus? So when we go look, right, Venus was in the planet of Libra at 18 degrees on the day that he died. So if you add those numbers up, it's 1 plus 8 is 9, 9 plus 3 is 12, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So, and then if you look at his Saturn, his Saturn was in Aquarius at 1828. So any numbers that you see that have eights, you have to pay attention to those numbers. Um, so we know he was 28 when he passed away. Um, so whenever you see the number eight, you know, pay attention to those specific numbers. So we want to add up Saturn. So that's going to be 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. And, and 11 plus 8 is 19. And that is 1 plus 9, which equals 10. So his Saturn was in Aquarius, and the number that it breaks down to is 1, right? Which means that, and then when you look at Venus, it was in the number 3. Now, I'm going to tell you a little something about the number 3. Yeah, you have to be careful with that number because it's a trine number. It's the triangle. And when you study the Holy Trinity, that number has to do with sacrifice. So pay attention to numbers that add up to 3. Those numbers actually have something to do with sacrifice. All right. So that number 3, be careful with, well, just know what you're doing with that number 3. All right. Because it's a trine number. It's the Holy Trinity. And part of the Trinity is sacrifice. Things sacrificial, things that will be sacrificed. All right. So that's the first thing that pops up at me is that on that specific day, Saturn was trining Venus. So that would be a energy that has something to do with karmic ties, right? It's a karmic tie that was going on. Now um, the next, we're gonna look at the trines first. And this could kind of tell you probably who he was with as well, because the trine is complementary, right? So who's Venus? Who was he with? So if he's Saturn, who was he with? So Venus was in Libra that day. So there could have been that beautiful, he could have been around a beautiful person, a very pretty, beautiful person. Also, he could. So Venus was in Libra that day, right? So, and he was Saturn. So now you got to ask yourself, this is just me pondering, who is Venus? Because see, the trine means it was an easy flow. So Venus has something to do with money. Venus has everything to do with money, contracts, and justice. And Venus also represents the law. So what was the agenda for that day? Did he have any appointments? Did he have to go to the court building? Was he in the process of filing some type of paperwork? Because Venus is beautiful, it's charismatic, and it's Libra. So it was in Libra that day. So that means that maybe there could have been something going on that had something to do with reviewing contracts. He could have been just kind of going over tying up some loose ends, making sure paperwork was together. He could have been on his way to just um, submit some paperwork, something along those lines, right? That's what's popping up with me is that specific day, it was something going on with contracts. All right. She said Libra is always the wild card. Um, Shout out to the Libras. You guys are really, really showing y'all motherfucking asses off. But you guys do, unfortunately for Libras, I know you guys aren't humans. You guys are like space cadets, objects, and you had to come to Earth for whatever reason. So those fucking Libras, you guys have an important role. So good luck. All right. So the first thing is, all right. So what was going on that day? He's Saturn, right? So his energy. Let's just remember, Libra could mean it represents justice, but there could be injustice. Lawyers, attorneys. So he could have been just on the phone talking to somebody, and then Libra, maybe he made a payment, something along those lines. All right. So that's the first thing we want to identify is, oh, his day got started. He woke up. Okay, let me go through my phone. Let me make a couple phone calls. Blah, yada, yada, this, yada, yada, that. Okay. Okay. All right. She said, we are very playful and balanced. Okay. That is somewhat true. Okay. So let's go. So we know that probably just maybe because something could have been going on that day where he was making some phone calls to some lawyers that had something to do with reviewing some stuff because a trine is an easy energy. So that's probably how his day got started, possibly speculation. Okay. But then Neptune is squaring Venus. So what does that mean? So we got to remember Neptune is what's hidden. Neptune is lies and deceit. Neptune is institutions, mental institutions, jails, things of that nature. Neptune also has something to do with drugs. Neptune rules the drug Pisces. Neptune rule the underground world of moving narcotics. Okay, narcotics. So Neptune is hidden, and usually when you're moving narcotics, you're going to be a little bit more hidden about what you're doing. It's going to be secret. You may drive an inconspicuous car. So he wasn't driving, if I'm not mistaken, he had like a Malibu. So he could have been driving a rental car, right? He could have been driving a rental car or something. So remember, I'm reading from the stars. This is just me being the outside looking in. I know a little bit, but I don't know every moving part. So now we know Neptune. Neptune is in charge of the underworld, narcotics. Neptune rules narcotics, okay? So it was squaring Venus. So he could have been talking or making a deal with someone, thinking that it was all good because he's having a good conversation because he's his Saturn is trining Venus, right? So you gotta remember this is time. Saturn is time, karma, things of that nature. But Neptune is the abyss, what's hidden, narcotic institutions, things of that nature. And it's squaring Venus. So something could have been playing out where he thought maybe everything that he was saying was not going to be told to somebody else. All right. So if Neptune is squaring Venus, sometimes when we look at a square, this are more difficult energies. Now, if you see a square, that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that that energy um, could you have to kind of master that, and it could be a little bit more difficult, right? So the difficulty could have came with Neptune on that specific day. So he's Neptune. Now, if he's Neptune, this is him, right? So he could have been having a conversation. Something could have been getting moved around. They didn't want nobody to know. It could have been something under wraps. Not too many people because Neptune is secrets. So everybody wasn't privy to this information, right? But and it's squaring Venus. And Venus is what? Lawyers, attorneys, contracts, things of that nature. So Neptune was going against contracts. It was going against something that had something to do with righteousness. He could have been doing something that was hidden, right? Okay. So on the specific day, the day could have started out with a plan. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to move this. We're going to move that. We don't need nobody to know about it. Let's go get this. Let's go get that. All right. Like, remember, we're studying the death chart. So when you study death, it still is complementary energies because everything has to come into fruition for you to actually be taken, for you to actually exit, right? The planets still align up. So you have an alignment for you the day that you actually pass away. There are planets that are aligning so that actual energy is it's like a portal energy. So people that study these energies, they'll know what days are easier days to do certain things for different tasks, right? For different tasks, you can study the alignments and you can play out because that specific day would be a easier day for this energy to be complementary. So yes, we think it's bad, right? What happened. But when we're talking about energies, we still have to look at it as what was complementary. How did this play out so it could be done on that specific day? Okay. So a sextile is an aspect formed when planets of two signs are 60 degrees apart. Okay. So no, so that's what we're looking at, you guys. Now a sextile. So now we're moving into the sextile. So the sextile is it's three lines, right? And um, it's parallel lines that cross each other, but it represents a 62 signs that are 60 degrees apart, and it's perfect harmony between planets that opens new pathways for growth. So we know when we see a sextile, this is harmony, which means the planets are available at its full potential. Now, the thing is, he has a sextile in Neptune, and so his Neptunes are sextiling each other. So Neptune sextile Neptune, right? So his inner planet, his planet Neptune is sextiling Neptune, and we're talking about this specific day. So Neptune was in a specific space in the ether, right? And then it's aspecting his planets where he was born. So this is like the most harmonious energy when you see a sextile. It's like opening up the full potential of Neptune. And what does Neptune represent? Again, we're going to go back to secrecy, things that are hidden, deceit, lies, drugs, narcotics. So on that specific day, Neptune was very powerful. Okay. Now, one of the things is, was it a crime of passion or was it a setup? It could be both. But we know that Neptune also rules music. Neptune rules music. Pisces. So he could have been in his bag. You know, we know he got new music that's on his way. Could have been on his way to go to the studio, right? Because this energy was very available today. It was available. Now, Chiron is a asteroid, and Chiron is a asteroid that basically has something to do with how you will be healed. So Chiron represents the wounded healer. So when you look at Chiron, Chiron will tell you who in your life and what in your life you need to be healed from. And his Chiron is in Leo. Okay? So his Chiron is in Leo, which means that Chiron is the wounded healer. So what Chiron does is it takes your pains and the traumas that you go through, and those very traumas and pains that you go through is the very thing that can heal you. And Leo is the stage. Leo is entertainment. So whatever traumas or things that he could have went through, the Chiron energy was playing out in Leo, which means this is probably why he loved the stage. He was a performer. He found healing in the performing arts. Okay? So Chiron, that was his healing. His healing was music, the stage, being in the spotlight. He found healing in that. And that's why he spoke so candidly through his music. All right. And you guys have to remember sometimes we get upset and sad. Did Okay, you guys. So if you ever want to find out what will help you heal, like what energy is here to help you kind of heal some of your traumas, you always want to look to Chiron. Chiron to tell you the energy to use. So Leo was an energy that he liked it. He loved performing and he was able to tell his story. He was able to people resonated with, what he went through in his life, and he was open and candid. And that's one thing Leo does is it shows itself to the world. All right. And it's a very creative energy. So of course we know he was an artist. So everything was good that day. Chiron, he probably was feeling like, hey, he was feeling good that day. Right. So that's that. So, okay, so let's go back to that. So, Chiron was trining Chiron, right? Which means that there could have been some talk about a performance, something along those lines. Now, you have the midheaven, right? And these are points in the sky. So, the midheaven is the 10th house. The 10th house sits at noon, 12 o'clock in the sky. It's the highest point in the sky and it's the spotlight. So wherever your midheaven is at, that's going to show you how the public sees you. It's going to show you how the public perceives you. What are your relationships with the public? Because how the public perceives you may not be who you are at home. People can have a personification of what they project and what they assume about you. So you have your public persona, right? So the 10th house was trining Mars, which means he was in the public. But you gotta remember, Mars is the god of war. What happened on the day that he passed away? Where was he? He was in the public. He was in a open space. He was in an open space. He was on a highway where it's open, and that's what the 10th house represents is it's big energy. It's a huge spotlight on you, right? So the spotlight was on him. Now, what kind of spotlight was on him? Mars was on him because his his um his his 10th house, his midheaven, right? So the midheaven, his midheaven was in Leo. Again, the spotlight. So the spotlight was all on him on this specific day. It was many people that was looking at him, but we don't know who was looking at him because when you look at Neptune, that's hidden energy. It's hidden energy, right? So he's open. Everybody can see him, but he can't see everybody. All right. So then the next one we're going to look at is the opposition. This is your opposing energy, right? So you always want to look at an axis. So the axis is going, you always have to know your opposite energy. You have to know what's on the other end because it's complementary energy. Even though it's the opposition is good because it gives you the ability to see the other side of things. You have to be able to see that. It's not all about complementary energy. You have to know how to use the opposition. So Mars was opposite Venus, right? So they were opposing each other. And so what would that mean? If I'm looking for the opposition, he's Mars, right? He's Mars. So Mars usually is connected to men. That's why they say men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So if Mars was opposing Venus, who's Venus? What was the opposition? Was there a conversation? Was there a phone call? Was there an argument? Because he's opposing that, which means that there could have been a misunderstanding. Something was opposite. It was not a trine. It was not complementary. It was the opposite. So it was opposite of him. So now you got to locate who was Venus? Who did he talk to? Was there an argument? Was there a disagreement? Somebody didn't see eye to eye? Whatever the case may be, right? Got to remember, all of these energies are working until the actual time that he actually is shot and killed on the interstate. Okay, you guys, could you imagine you driving your car? They said that he was by himself. That's what is being stated. Now, there's cameras everywhere. So, I mean, I'm assuming that they got cameras everywhere, so they probably could have seen if somebody else was in that car. But if he was on the highway, that means there were many cars, many cars. There could have been more than one car. So it was somebody else close by, but they wasn't in the same car, but they were in the vicinity. So if you're thinking about how this played out, there had to be cars in front of him because they would have to slow down. So let's just say they're following him. He's kind of being barricaded and doesn't even know that it could have been 4 or 5 cars speculating that could have kind of two in front, two in the back, one on the right, left, one on the right. So when it's time to stop, because you gotta remember this was done in broad daylight on a highway, you would have to go now, roll back the cameras and see what cars, if you could get cameras, I don't know, you can look at the cars that were driving around him at that specific time. And whatever cars were slowing down or kind of weaving in and out of traffic, they had to be strategic. And this is Mars. You gotta remember, Mars is methodical. Mars is a strategist. Mars is a general. It was okay. So if Mars is opposite Venus, right? How could he could have got Venus is alluring. So you can lure someone in. But we really want to go back to this square, right? It's so I'm thinking about a square in the highway, right? Okay, so I'm I'm thinking about that highway, right? Because you couldn't, if you on an interstate or highway, those cars are going like 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. So in order to slow down traffic, you would have to have cars that are slowing down before you slow down, right? You would have to, those cars have to slow down. So those cars had to slow down first in order for them to slow down. So now you got to go back and think, what cars slowed down? I'm gonna leave it at that. I ain't gonna say nothing else about that. Now, Saturn is squaring the sun, and Saturn, remember, is karma, and the sun represents life, vitality. So in Saturn is karma. So again, it's opposite. This is not complementary energy, right? So father time karma is squaring the sun, which is his, right? So if I'm looking at this alignment, this square right here, I'm gonna show y'all something, right? So this is another way. So as I'm looking at these alignments, there's empty pockets, right? There's empty pockets. So there's an empty pocket by Virgo, and there's an empty pocket by Cancer, and he's Gemini. So this little space right here is kind of open, and this little space right here is open. There's nothing, you see that? There's nothing right here. So we want to look at Virgo, okay? This right here. And then we want to look at Scorpio. The Scorpio is death, right? So right here, these points, um, these means that they were connecting. So my question is this part right here, this empty part. Okay, so yes, the empty spot, the empty pocket is still in Virgo. It's the empty pocket right there. All right, let's go back, y'all. And this stuff could take out. All right, so now we're going back because this is the one that we're gonna look at next. Let's see. Sorry. Here we go. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, let's go back there. All right, so let's go to Mars. So Mars, now when you have a conjunction, that means that the planets are like right beside each other. It's friction. So when we look at a conjunction, a lot of times people think a conjunction doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It just means that the planets are really, really close to each other. So Mars represents fire as well. So Mars is conjunct Mars. So let's find out who Mars was on that day. So we want to find out who Mars is, okay? Who is Mars? Because Mars is the trigger. Mars is the one that has the trigger. And Mars was in Aries and keeps going back to Aries, right? Who's the Aries? That's the trigger man. But really, we looking for the Scorpio because there was somebody that planned this. All right, Mars planned it. So who planned it? So what do we want to go look at? Mars right here. So Mars, and then Mars is squaring Pluto. Mars is squaring Jupiter. Mars is conjunct Mars. Mars is sextile in the North Node. Mars. Okay, so let me. I told you about these cars. So these cars could be Mars. The the cars are Mars. Whoever was in those cars on that highway, that's Mars. Okay, so yes, let me do a 2.0. So I want y'all to ponder on that. Ponder on, because I'm okay. He has Mars opposite Venus. Okay, he has Uranus square Mars. He has Mars sextile node, the North Node. He has Mars square Jupiter, Mars square Pluto, Neptune square Mars, Mars conjunct Mars. This is all war. This is all fire. Mars is Scorpio and Aries. This is somebody was planning something. So I'm gonna count. We're going it's seven. Let me see. One. How many aspects do we have for Mars? And this is gonna tell you how many people was probably on that highway that day. One. So let's count. Let's count. One, one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you know how they talk about the divine nine? Let me count that one more time so I can make sure I'm not tripping. Okay, so I want y'all to ponder on that for a second. Once you ponder on Mars. All right, give me 1 second, y'all. I got a barking dog, so I'm trying to like wait for the dog to like not bark. So give me 1 second. So yes, I want y'all to pay attention to Mars. Because see, Mars is two components. It's the planning, because you got two components of war. You have execution and you have planning. So Scorpio plans. I want y'all to get that. The Scorpion plans. They are the strategists. They are the ones that will put it into play. They are the ones that put all of the pieces together. I'm not saying it's a Scorpio that planned this. I'm telling you about the energy of Mars and what how Mars plays out. Someone was playing out a Scorpion energy. Was it a Scorpio? I'm not sure. It like was it an actual Scorpio? I'm not sure. But somebody was planning this. Okay, y'all. All right, what's up, Southeast Soldier? So let's look for Mars. So what we doing today is I'm about to we're gonna have to come back for a part two because it just takes so long to do this. It's this could take hours to do. That's why people be charging you hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do these readings because it's just a lot to be looking at. So what we're going to end on is locating Mars. So you're looking for two specific things. You're looking for the strategist, you're looking for the planner, the leader, the one that is actually planning things out, the person that's able to put people in their specific spaces. There's no way you're going to be on a highway. You just don't slow down on a highway and jump out in the middle of a highway and shoot somebody. There was a what do they call it? A convoy. There was a convoy, and that convoy was able to basically slow down traffic, and that is Mars. And we counted 9 individuals, and I'm using Mars as the nine. So we know about the divine nine. So let me count again so I can make sure that my eyeballs is looking correctly. So we have one, two, three, four, five, 6, 7. Or am I tripping? Hold on, y'all. I'm tripping. Hold on 1 second. No, let me come down. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it's 8 aspects. We have 8 aspects. Correction. It's 8 aspects to Mars. So when y'all looking at Mars, you have to be very careful with Mars because that is war like energy. Okay. So now you want to go and say, okay, who who were the Martians? Who are these Martian people? Who were the people that played out Mars energy? I'm going to count it one more time to make sure I'm not tripping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we have 8. 8. There's 8 aspects that were Mars. So go back and go look at that highway. Go back and look at cars. It could have been 2 people in one car, 3 people in another car. I don't know how. I don't know, but it's 8. 8 people. 8 people. Go look. Go study Mars because you got 2 components of Mars. You want to, because this wasn't done by itself. Now, sometimes you have a person that will take the fall, and usually they'll get a young person to take the fall. But usually there's an older person. There could be an older person, a little bit more seasoned, that's a little bit more influential, that's able to persuade younger people to do things. Because we know most crimes that are committed when it comes to like violence is younger men that are under the age of 25. So I know the young man, I think he was under 25, but usually those young men are influenced by older people. So of course, okay, he may have been caught pulling the trigger, but he did not plan this by himself. You know what I'm saying? Was he paid? I don't know. I'm quite sure if it goes through discovery, depending on if he takes a plea deal, depending on what he's trying to do, would he tell? I don't know. If they give him a better plea, we don't know those issues. We don't know that yet. But there is an older person, a person that's a little bit more seasoned, that has the ability to basically persuade younger people to play out certain things. So that's another thing. So you have the Scorpio, you have Aries. Now, are they specifically in Aries or Scorpio? Maybe not. But the energy would play out. And those specific individuals were the ones that created this convoy. And and I believe it's around 8 people. Now, when we look at the Mars aspect, who was the planner? We want to look for the planet that has something to do with being a boss. The planet that has something to do with being a leader. So we want to look for that aspect. And let me find it real quick. So the Mars was Quincunx's sun. His Mars was a quincunx to the sun. So if you don't know what a quincunx is, I will tell you that. Just give me 1 second because we're studying geometry and alignments and how space and shape create energy. This is why you need to know what a rectangle does. Rectangles create 90-degree angles. And what happens with a 90-degree angle? A sextile has 60-degree angles. Okay. So once you study the shapes and alignments, you're going to study the angles. And those angles are going to give you specific energies. And you take that and then you locate the energy and the person will just show up. So now we want to know, now the sun is the great leader. Leo is a leader. Leo is the king. Okay, Leo is the king. So Mars is quincunx, the sun, which is the king. So yeah, remember Mars is the general to the king. So his Mars is quincunx, the sun. So he was Mars. He was Mars. So he was playing out a Mars energy, right? Right, a more assertive, aggressive energy. He could have been talking to somebody, but the whole time he's talking to the king, the leader, right? Because he's not the leader. He's not the leader. MO3 wasn't the leader. There's another leader. Okay, so let's find out. Let's give a definition of quincunx so we can understand what that is and how it's going to play out as far as the shape. Okay. Then we got to wrap this up because it's Valentine's Day. Thank you. A shout out to Cardi. listen, y'all, the trolls and stuff, I'm doing just fine. These people literally are trolling me, thinking that I'm in a cult. I am in a. You ever heard of the occult? So it's not an insult. You're. These people are going around saying eyes is an occult. Do you understand what the cult is? The occult. So that's not an offense to me. It's not an offense to me. I'm perfectly fine. Trust me when I tell you. I look good, I do good, and I eat good, and I live good, and I sleep good. I've told you guys already, I'm from the fixed star Electra from the Seven Sisters. So leave me the fuck alone. I'm over here minding my business. But I am being nosy at this point because I'm about to read from the goddamn stars. And I can't lie about this shit. Okay, so a quincunx is an arrangement of 5 objects. But why am I looking at the Mars aspect to the sun? Because I want to find the leader. I want to find the person because the sun is the king. So I want to find out who is the king, who is the leader, right? And he was the general to this leader. Okay, so the king cox is an arrangement of 5 objects with 4 at the corners of a square or rectangle, and the fifth at its center used for the 5 on the dice of playing cards. So the quincunx is also an aspect of 150 degrees, equivalent to 5 zodiac signs. So the quincunx is able to take multiple energies and they're all together and they go at the 150-degree angle. Okay, so what does that mean? Now we want to go and see where the sun was at. We want to see what sign the sun is in, right? And this is going to tell us who the leader is. The leader is Scorpio. I can't make this shit up. The leader is the Scorpion. Hey, you guys. Now, is it actually a Scorpio? I can't tell y'all if the leader is actually a Scorpio. I can just tell you that the leader is playing out Scorpion type tactics. So we now I'm establishing something. When we think about death, we think about Pluto. Pluto is where you go after you die. But how do you die is Mars. So when you want to look at death, you want to look at shit that's about to die, anything to do with aggressions, war, you need to go pay attention to Mars. So Mars was so heavy in his chart right that day. Why am I focusing on the leader? I had the quincunx because it's a 150-degree angle and it involves the number 5. It involves a 4 corners and then something in the center. Now, remember what I told y'all that quincunx, it involves a 150-degree angle and it involves a square or a rectangle. And those are the 4 corners. And then the fifth is in the center. Where was MO3? He was in the center. He was in a convoy. There were one, there was 4 cars. They could have been 2 in front, 2 in the back, and then he could have been in the center. If you go back and look, it looks like they try to barricade him and kind of put him closer to, like, if you're on a highway, to push him to the right. So the cars could have been in the far left lane, then one was on the far right lane, and then he was in the center because this is a quincunx, and then there was two cars behind him. This is allegedly theory. I'm telling you a picture. There's no way somebody was just on a highway by themselves. I just cannot get with that. I don't believe it. It's just this is speculation for me reading the stars. Why am I concentrating on the sun? Because the sun, that energy was the energy that was able to basically lead and administer this type of planning. You know what I'm saying? Because the sun is, Leo. Sun energy is all about the ego, but you can do a lot with sun energy, right? So y'all gotta go find out who was the scorpion. Okay. So, and then there's one more aspect, um, and then we're going to go to Jupiter. And the reason why I want to talk about Jupiter because Jupiter has everything to do with wealth. Jupiter has everything to do with luck. Jupiter has everything to do with expansion, right? And his Mars was squaring Jupiter. Now, I already told you guys that Neptune was sextiling, which means this is very harmonious energy. Somebody could have moved something. There could have been a deal. Someone could have got taken. We don't know what was in that car. He could have met somebody before he got on the highway. They could have already robbed him. He could have got robbed before. Speculation of how things play out, right? So if I know Neptune is harmonious energy that day, that means he could have did something without telling somebody. He was going to meet somebody that nobody knew nothing about. He could have had dealings on some side, something on the side that had nothing to do. And now the more that I think about it, that secret dealing probably is the X factor that nobody knows anything about, right? So why am I going to look at Mars um, Mars square Jupiter, because Jupiter is money. And when I say money, big money, wealth, it's expansion, and it's Zeus, it's the god of all gods. So, of course, the question is that quincunx that's 150 degrees, I'm going to just say this and I'm going to leave it at this. I'm going to leave it at that. Go find the vehicles and I'm gone. And we'll do a part two later. Thank you for the donations that were sent to me through this live. Appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? We want to build. Now, when it comes to people that I have gotten into it with or whatever, it's for shits and giggles. One thing I know for sure, and for people that are a little confused on what I'm doing on my channel, my it's going to move into a different direction, and there are specific people that are here that are playing out specific roles, and I don't have to say too much because you already know, it's already understood. So yet and still, please remember, for those the few that want to pay attention to Mars. It's eight people. It's eight. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And we'll do a part two. The part two, I'm gonna go into the fixed stars. I can't do it today. When we do the part two, that's when I'm gonna go into the fixed stars. And what the fixed star is gonna show is it's gonna shine light. We want to look at the fixed stars that was aspecting Mars, and then that's really going to give us a little bit more insight on the reasoning behind all of this. But again, your homework is to study Mars, figure out the great eight, the eight, and the convoy. that convoy that was on that highway. And there's a general, there's a king, there's a leader that had the ability to pull this whole entire operation off. And as we know, even with you have people that do commit crimes, but they are not the orchestrator. Okay, they're not the orchestrator. They play it out. So even for this young man that played this out, he is not the orchestrator. The person that's been doing this has done this. They know what they're doing. They've done it before. And more than likely, they're not going to get caught. Talk to y'all later. I'm gonna play a little music for y'all, and then we're gonna leave up out of here. So ponder, 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 ponder. Many blessings to everybody. But again, I'm gonna reiterate this: look for those 8 and them goddamn cars. Okay. And I'm gonna leave it alone because I'm trying to mind my. I'm doing something that, quite frankly, you know what I'm saying. What I'm doing, it's certain people that's not gonna like this. You know what I'm saying? They just not, because you can. So I have to be very sensitive to myself when I'm looking at these things. So let's protect each other, but especially for the young people, you have people that are using you like a pawn. They will use you like a pawn. They're strategists, they're generals, they're kings. They've been doing this for a long time. They've been taught how to do this. So be very wary, young man, of who you surround yourself with. Be very wary of certain things, especially when we come to some of these, inner workings of specific groups of people, and how they're able to orchestrate and to pull things out, right? So we just want to remember that, all right? And y'all, peace and blessings. And let's do this. I want y'all to think hard, because again, the question is not who killed him. The question is why. And how many times have this happened before? It's the same scenario, chaos. Most things will be done in the open. It will be done in the open. All of the situations that happen, Mars is very, very intelligent. Mars is a general. They know how to go to war. Everything, some things are hidden and some things are not hidden. Most things happen in the blink of an eye. Most things happen in broad daylight. Most brazen crimes are committed right in front of your face. And Mars is a master at that. So you have to understand the ability for Mars to be strategic about playing out how to go to war. Okay, you guys? I want y'all to remember that. You can apply this in your personal life. When you do your birth chart, when you do readings, each planet is going to show you things. Mars is not just bad. You can use Mars, we can use Mars for vitality. It's vitality, but for this, Mars is going to play out more in that war like, it's going to be war, strategy, confusion, manipulation. And Mars and Scorpio like money. They take people's money. Scorpio rules other people's assets. Scorpio rules inheritance. So, Scorpio has the ability to get other people's money. You have to remember that when you're dealing with a Scorpion. Okay? Got that, you guys? And I'm going to let some of this play out just to kind of get y'all going. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope all is well. Don't get caught up in the rigmarole of Valentine's Day. Find a Valentine that you can love every single day. We're going to go ahead and let this play out. have an investigator around, they can find out you can find that out. Who was renting cars on that day? They also could go find out what exit is coming off of. There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras everywhere. If you find the exit, right, it's not going to be the exit. Or like, it's going to be different. Like I said before in the last reading, he did a detour. There was a detour, but the whole time these people was following him. So I can read all of the aspects, but for this, I just want to kind of stay in the Mars energy because, you know, he had 8 alignments at Mars. And then after Mars, what was the next? He has so much Mars energy, it's crazy. Okay, hold on 1 second. Oh shoot, I got rid of it, y'all. Sorry, never mind. Oh, here we go. Hold on 1 second. Alright, so let me go look at something. And yes. And there's one more energy, it's the, because you gotta remember the moon represents the Akashic records, past lives. And the north node is the, you have the north node and the south node. And these are karmic points, right? So your south node will tell you about your past life, where you came from. Your north node tells you what you're going to play out in this lifetime. And his north node was his lifetime was squaring the moon, which means that the moon also represents past lives. So the whole situation with him passing has something to do with the ability to go into the. So the moon is controlling your DNA, your record keeping. Your DNA, that has something to do with the moon and the Akashic records. All right. So for his north node to be squaring the moon on that day, that would be an opportunity for him to go ahead and transition, because the moon represents past life. Right, so you gotta remember, you guys, the moon, that regulates the tides. It regulates your mind. your DNA in which you are, what is being recorded. So part of reincarnation is time. There's nothing to be afraid of. So the thing is, we don't know how we're going to leave this body, but you will. You will leave. Now, the next thing I'm going to look at is the spirit. So we can say the moon is spirit, but the sun is spirit as well. So the Pluto is Scorpio and is conjuncting the sun. Which means that it will lose vitality. You know, the Pluto is going to take the vitality of the sun. So the sun is vitality. Without the sun, you don't exist. Not in this lifetime. And the last thing that we want to talk about, and we'll leave it at that, is so he has the North Node, and this is kind of interesting because the North Node is the points of the moon. Okay, so you have the North Pole and the South Pole, right? So these are the points in the moon. And why is that important? Because the moon is also playing out karmic cycles. But you know, Saturn is the ruler of time, but the moon regulates cycles on Earth, which is 28 days, right? The 28-day cycle of the moon. The moon goes through the phases of the moon, right? So let's see. Why are we going to worry about the moon? Because the North Node and the South Node are the points of the moon, the North and the South, right? So the South Node will tell you where you came from. North Node is going to tell you where you're going. And he has, let's see how many points he has facing the North Pole. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so he has 4 points. Let's make sure I'm seeing this correctly. Okay, so that's 4. So there were 4 points. The North Node was 4 points. And the 4 point is a square, but it's also, a square can be a cross. So Remember I told you about sacrifice? So when you're looking at the north node, his north node is in Capricorn. Capricorn is the devil. No, yes, his north node is in Capricorn, and Capricorn represents Saturn and the devil. And because the north node was touching 4 separate points, that's making a square, which you can look at as a form of a cross. And this goes back to the quincunx with the 150-degree angle. So there are 4 separate people, or 4 people, places, or things that were creating these 4 points, because the north node is also karmic points on the moon. The moon represents your Akashic records and cycles. So not only are you going to look for Mars, you're going to look for 8, but within that 8 is 4. Okay? Within the 8 is 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. Right? So the Capricorn, and usually the Capricorn is going to be very, very strategic, cold. So look at 2 things, and then I keep saying I'm gonna get out of here, but I gotta go. So the north node, okay? The north node is squaring the ascendant. Okay, so the north node is squaring the ascendant, and the ascendant on that day was Pisces. Remember I told you Pisces is Neptune, 29 degrees. 29 degrees is actually a critical degree. So the degrees in each sign, when we count the degrees, it goes from 0 to 29 degrees. A critical degree. So interesting that the chart for the exit planets was Pisces. Pisces also is one of the rarest ascendants. Pisces represents the abyss, the unknown, the deep sea. So this would have been an easy portal because it's an exit point. 29 degrees is the end of a zodiac. It goes to 0, which was Aries, and Aries is the baby. So now we have to think, who's the Pisces? Because in the aspect, the north node is squaring the ascendant. So his north node is his present life. His present life. But it's squaring the exit planet, which was a Pisces rising. So I would tell you this. I would tell you this. If you want to know where his day started at, look at 29 and 28. 28 Pisces. So we're going to add that number up real quick. 2 plus 9 is 11. 11 plus 2 is 13. 13. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Hold on 1 second, you guys. Twenty-one. I told you guys, be very weary. Now I'm gonna say weary. That number 3 is a sacrifice number. So when you're using that number 3, this has everything to do with the whole eternity. So the ascendant is 29 degrees, 28 Pisces. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And then Pisces is the unknown before you are reincarnated. So 2 plus 9 is 11, plus 2 plus 8 is 21, and 2 plus 1 is 3. So that number 3 was available, the energy was available, right? The 21, it was sitting at 21 degrees. And so you gotta remember, Pisces, it was sitting at 29 degrees, which is a critical degree. So if you want to know where his day got started at, go find a location that adds up to a number 3. And I'll talk to you guys later. If you want to know where his day got started, go find a location that adds up to a number 3.